Can you tell us how you got into racing?
Like how I originally got in to start? Well, I would say that how we got into it was my mom's side of the family always raced or dirt biked or had some sort of gearhead, motorsports. My grandfather had a, automotive shop. He had an automotive machinery shop, so he built engines and boring bars and hones and stuff like that. So my mom's side of the family were gearheads, so we grew up going to the desert and racing dirt bikes, and my brother and I raced BMX and then raced quads and off-road stuff. So that's how it got started. It's more a family fun hobby, not so much like a career, but it just sort of evolved from there.
Awesome. So perseverance is a great way to define your career. What has motivated you during your career, especially when you were fighting just to have a ride?
Yeah, there's a couple main factors. There's always more to it, but I would say, the foundation of who I am and why I do what I do is my faith. I feel like the Lord's allowed me to have these opportunities, and that you should pursue them with everything you have, and you should be a good steward of what God's given you. And so perseverance, comes from, that unwavering faith that anything's possible and it is going to work out and it is going to be okay. And sometimes even when it's not always realistic. And then the flip side of that too, for me, is that my family, I feel like, it started out early on that my dad, my mom, my brother, my grandparents, my immediate family sacrificed so much for me to pursue this dream that you had to give it everything you had, And then beyond that, when I started my own family, it was the way that I provided for my family. And so on the bad days when I was driving start and park cars and it wasn't that much fun, it's what I did to provide for my family. And so your job isn't always fun, and it's not always, sometimes it's a grind, and sometimes it's hard, and sometimes you don't want to show up, but you do it anyways. And also too, like I said, that holding on to hope that one day I would sit in victory lane, and one day I would be in a good car and a good program and be able to run competitively, and that never really wavered. It just took a really long time to get there, so pretty crazy.
Awesome. As someone who's competed in open wheel and sports car, do you have any desire to go back and compete in those cars?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I would love to. Especially sports cars, just in general, I've always had a passion for it. It's kind of, I don't want to say where my career started, but a little bit, I kind of was open wheel and coming through the open wheel path, and then went sports car racing, and then went NASCAR racing. So I'd love to do some more sports car races in the future, and maybe later on. IndyCar and open wheel, I still watch it. I still love it. Would I do it? Sure, I would do it, but I would do it more for the enjoyment of going and driving, and not so much like I'm going to set the world on fire and be ultra competitive and try to make a run at it. I think that IndyCar racing in particular, and Formula One, is, I don't want to say a young man's sport, but it's a young man's sport in the sense that guys like Lewis Hamilton and guys like Scott Dixon, those are two good examples of guys that are, my age, but they've stayed in it. And so they've stayed sharp. They haven't lost anything. Going from go-karts to Formula cars to IndyCar is really a seamless transition. It's not, you just keep going faster and faster. To do like what Jimmy Johnson did and have a great career in NASCAR on things that are, on cars that are so different, to go get to that level, I think is almost impossible to do it. Now on an oval, something like that, I think I'd be fine. But you go to Mid-Ohio, or you go to a street course like Long Beach and places like that, and you really got to push yourself, beyond what you think the car's capable of. It's hard to get that speed if you haven't been building towards that for a long time.
Great. Looking back, is there a moment in your career that stands out as your favorite?
Oh, there's lots of favorites. I mean, I don't have one. I mean, obviously winning the Daytona 500 was huge, and I think winning at Indianapolis was incredible, something that I'll never forget. Racing in my first Champ Car race in Australia was something that I'll never forget, and I'm thankful I had the opportunity to do that. And doing a doubleheader in Mexico City and Champ Car and sports cars on the same weekend was awesome. So, you have those memories that are really cool. Whether it's first wins and those aha moments, I would call them, where you feel like you worked your whole life to get to this moment. That bar keeps changing as you go throughout your career. So yeah, those are probably some of the highlights.
Awesome. And finally, what's your favorite NASCAR paint scheme?
That's really tough. My own, or throwback, or growing up, or all the above?
How about one of your own and then one of just NASCAR entirety?
Yeah, so the throwback that we did at Darlington, I ran the Bill Elliott's Ford, that gold wheels, and just, oh man, it's so cool. It was with Freight Auctions. Freight Auctions was the one that actually did it and came up with the paint scheme and made it all look really cool. But that Bill Elliott throwback was probably one of the coolest cars I've driven. I had a Mark Martin throwback too at North Wilkesboro that was really cool, to the Folgers car that he drove. I don't know if you remember that one, but that was neat. And then, growing up, I mean, it would have to probably be Jeff Gordon's, Rainbow Warrior, DuPont car. Just so different in the time. It was so bright, and I always had super bright neon helmets and lots of color, and so that one was cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.